Well, hello there, and thank you for joining me for this week's edition of Telile 24/7. I'm your host, Adam Cook. On this week's show, we have a special report about a couple from Port Hawkesbury that is charging discrimination by the owner and operator of a gym facility located within the Port Hawkesbury Civic Centre. You'll hear their story in just a few moments, but first of all, here is the first of two parts of an interview we recently conducted here on Telile 24/7 with Cape Breton-Canso Member of Parliament Mike Kelloway. Later on in the program, you're going to hear what he thinks about the proposed new shape of his riding, which could come about as quickly as the next federal election. And you're also going to hear what MP Kelloway has to say about a recent funding announcement involving healthcare transfers between Ottawa and the provincial governments. But we begin with a review of several recent visits and announcements that MP Kelloway made to various Strait Area communities. Here's the first part of our interview with Cape Breton-Canso Member of Parliament Mike Kelloway right now. And we're pleased to welcome back to Telile Community Television the Member of Parliament for Cape Breton-Canso. He is Mike Kelloway. Mike, thank you for joining me again today on Telile 24/7.
Great to be here, Adam.
Well, it's good to have you, and we have a lot of things we want to talk to you about, but we want to begin by talking a bit about a couple of the travels you made in the 24 hours leading up to this interview. You were in Louisdale and you were also in St. Peter's. Can you give me a little bit of a sense on what was happening in each of those communities?
Absolutely, and it's funny that we start there. I was talking to a couple of MPs yesterday, and they talked about the fact. They said to me, "Do you when you get back to the constituency, are you in your office because you're always on the road?" And I said, "Well, that's where the action is." And so we were in Louisdale yesterday. Met with a group there that's focused on seniors programming, Adam, and um, I can give you a little bit of probably a teaser that the riding is going to be home to 15 new projects for seniors throughout the riding, Louisdale being one on the New Horizons program. And that's one of the higher number of programs in terms of funded programs throughout Canada. We're able to get 15 funded here in Cape Breton in northeastern Nova Scotia. And, sitting and talking to the folks in Louisdale, we'll be looking at monies that are going to be predominantly around programming around physical health and mental health. So I met with some of the folks there. And then in St. Peter's, talked to a group that's looking at their center that's connected to the church in terms of being a bit of a community hub. And they're looking for supports in terms of bringing their hall up to code. So I'm big a proponent and big and pretty much focused on when someone calls, I'd like to be able to actually go to the location, talk to the people, see the infrastructure they're talking about, because it helps me when I'm making pitches to for funding to ministries, departments, and things of that nature. And when I was elected in 2019, I said I'd like to try to do things different in terms of having the MP come to community on a regular basis and meet with proponents on proposals or challenges on an individual constituency basis. And that's predominantly the joke that is in the office and in Ottawa is that I live in my car. And my wife would attest to this, that I live in my car because the riding is so big and diverse in terms of its makeup. We have urban rural, we have Mi'kmaq, we have Acadian, we have so many newcomers coming to the riding of Cape Breton-Canso. We have an immense amount of opportunity. We have immense amount of challenges, but to actually have, have your be in the foxhole as it were rather. It's important for me to be in the foxhole with people to work with them and fight for them.
Well, I wanted to pick up a little bit on the shape of your riding and the makeup of your riding. We'll talk a bit about that in just a couple of minutes' time in terms of the proposed changes to the Cape Breton-Canso riding. But before we get there, I wanted to springboard off another announcement that you made yesterday, and this was in Antigonish. That's out of our coverage area, although Telile does have viewers in
That's
Antigonish on
right.
Bell Fiber Up. But you made an announcement about community transit. And I wanted to pick up on a joint announcement that you and Inverness MLA and Deputy Premier Alan McMaster had made in January concerning accessible vehicles and funding for accessible vehicles for straight area transit. And I was just wondering if you could talk about that a little bit and the importance of the federal government of being involved there.
Absolutely. And we've been making a lot of announcements in the Quad Counties. So the federal government, Adam, announced just shy of 400,000 to the straight area transit. Minister McMaster joined the announcement, and they're contributing 99,000 to the project as well. So a great collaborative effort between governments. And so that's almost $500,000 for the purchase of 3 new vehicles for the cooperative. So the funding will support the purchase of 3 new accessible vehicles for the cooperative. That's going to be able to up their game in terms of getting people from point A to point B, focused on fixed and pre-booked door-to-door and wheelchair accessible services, quite frankly, for all residents. So the vehicles themselves will be used primarily, Adam, for the most vulnerable populations in Inverness and Richmond counties. Again, what I like about this is that it's homegrown solutions, right? So the vehicle will be used to bring people to social events, educational and employment opportunities, day-to-day activities, medical appointments. And what I like about the agreement and the funding is what underpins it is the ability to provide people independence and a sense of freedom that will improve, no doubt, the quality of life of individuals that use the service. So it's, again, looking at government, where is government in terms of the solution? Where are governments in terms of the solution? But ultimately, at the end of the day, solutions come from the bottom up. And so we see this with the cooperative, and we see this with the town of Port Hawkesbury and the municipality of Inverness and the municipality of Richmond County of working collaboratively together and an unwavering commitment to coordination to help people in rural Cape Breton and northeastern Nova Scotia. And I've said this with so many announcements that I've made in the past 6 months, and I'll say it again, that big things can happen in rural communities. This is an example of collaboration, coordination, cooperation, and getting the job done.
On that note, we want to take a quick detour into Port Hawkesbury as well. You'd mentioned the collaboration between federal, provincial, and municipal officials. You were also involved in a recent announcement involving funding to replace aging water infrastructure in the town of Port Hawkesbury, and in particular, water towers in the town of Port Hawkesbury that have been around for many decades. Your thoughts on being able to work with the province and the town to make that happen?
Well, first and foremost, Mayor and Council of Port Hawkesbury, they are progressive in terms of focusing on infrastructure that's going to improve their town. They come to me with solutions. They come to me with ideas. They come to me with challenges. And I think Port Hawkesbury is indicative of so many communities in Cape Breton and northeastern Nova Scotia. Aging infrastructure, yes, but also looking at the fact that in many places in Cape Breton and northeastern Nova Scotia, we're growing in terms of population for the first time in generations. And I'll say that again, Adam, generations. So with growth comes the need to max infrastructure investments to that group. So we see water and wastewater in Port Hawkesbury. That has been a priority for the town for years. We were able to deliver that with the provincial government and the hard work of the town of Port Hawkesbury. Now, there are other announcements that I'm going to be making in the Quad counties that focus on infrastructure that have been years in the making because it takes time. Now we have the ability, and I can't wait to share this with you. I can't share it with you now and the listeners, but there will be some substantial announcements in Richmond County, Inverness County, that will catch, I think, the interest of many people that live there. But make no mistake about it, I have the most progressive, most community-oriented municipal politicians and people that work in community, volunteering their time and their energy to improve the area. And we need to invest in infrastructure in rural Canada. We need to invest in rural infrastructure in Cape Breton-Canso. We are doing so in Port Hawkesbury, but stay tuned for the other counties.
We'll have more of our conversation with Cape Breton-Canso Liberal Member of Parliament Mike Kelloway later on in this episode of Telile 24/7. Right now, we'd like to bring you the story of a registered nurse with the Nova Scotia Health Authority and a Taekwondo instructor in the Strait area who feels that he is being discriminated against by the owner and operator of a gym facility at the Port Hawkesbury Civic Centre. Jason Dwaron will share his story with you, and we're also going to hear from that owner-operator of the gym facility, Jens Blecker, as part of this special report. This is not normally the type of story that we would do here at Telile 24/7. However, because Jason Dwaron and his wife Leah have brought their concerns to the Mayor of Port Hawkesbury and to the facilities manager for the Port Hawkesbury Civic Centre, it does fall within the guidelines of civic journalism, as provided by the Canadian Association of Community Television Users and Stations, or CACTUS, which provides funding for Telile 24/7 through its local journalism initiative. With all that in mind, let's bring you the story of how one man's struggle with multiple sclerosis has led to a conversation that is proving quite difficult on both sides, and you're going to hear both sides of the story as we take you now to the Port Hawkesbury Civic Centre. Just behind me is the Body and Soul gym facility. It's visible to everybody that comes in and out of the Port Hawkesbury Civic Centre through its main entrance. This facility has been under private ownership since the YMCA of Cape Breton pulled out of its management of the facility in 2020, just over 3 years ago. The gym is currently operated by a man named Jens Blecker, who is the owner and operator of Body and Soul. What you're about to hear in the next few minutes is a timeline presented from two different perspectives, that of the gym owner-operator, Jens Blecker, and that of Leah and Jason Dwaron of Port Hawkesbury. Jason Dwaron had originally wanted to use equipment here at the Body and Soul gym facility as part of his recovery and treatment from a diagnosis of multiple sclerosis. However, things have unfolded very differently from either side, as you're about to hear from an interview I conducted with the Dwarons at their home in Port Hawkesbury just a couple of weeks ago, and a statement provided by Jens Blecker in lieu of him going on camera for an official interview from the Body and Soul perspective. So we're going to lay out these differing perspectives for you over the next few moments here on Telile 24/7, and then leave it up to you to make your own conclusions about what happened, what was right, what was wrong, and where the story should go from here.
2021, December 7th or 8th, I was diagnosed with the QE2.
We had bought it passed right before the diagnosis because Jason
Right.
had some leg problems, and that we thought was from a car accident. And so he thought, and the concussion clinic thought, like, you need to start exercising more to help your legs. So off we went to Body and Soul and bought a 1-month membership. For those who don't know a lot about MS, exercise is really important, but you have to be in remission first. So the gym pass had to be put on pause so that he could be placed into remission with the help of physiotherapy, occupational therapy, and monthly treatments. And so the doctor wrote a note for Jason saying at this time, and moving forward onward with any specific dates, because nobody knows how long it will take to be put into remission, that the gym pass needs to be paused.
It took some talking to him before we got our money back.
But because back then he said, the gym owner said, if somebody has MS, they should be at a gym. So MS is not a good reason to pause membership. And we said, we agree once he's in remission. And we don't know when that's going to take, because if you're not in remission, then you can do more damage. So it was about a month of an argument, like the gym pass paused, because he said, no, if the treatment for MS is exercise. And we said, we agree, but it's not right now.
It was canceled, basically.
It was canceled
because
we didn't know how long.
Because we didn't know when we were going to get it back.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Here is how Jens Blecker recalls the situation in his statement provided to Telile Community Television. The manager at that time in the gym was a former chief physician from Germany. He told the Dwarons that, in his opinion, in the early stages of MS, it would be helpful to keep going at the gym, and he would pause the membership until Mr. Dwaron was able to return to the gym. Mr. and Mrs. Dwaron said that Jason won't be able to get back into the gym at all because of the advanced stage of his MS. The manager then asked them to provide a doctor's note that clears that up as per membership policy. On December 29, 2021, according to Mr. Blecker, Body and Soul was provided with a letter from the general physician attending to Jason Dwaron that said, quote, Jason Dwaron has been or will be unable to attend the Body and Soul gym for medical reasons from December 1st, 2021 onward. Continuing Mr. Blecker's statement, the diagnosis for Jason and the stage he is in put him, other members, and the equipment on a high risk, and by refunding membership, Body and Soul took everyone's well-being at the forefront. In Mr. Blecker's words, we truly care about our members and their health and wellness. He goes on to say, quote, for people who don't know about MS, a few public informations that explain why. Quotes that he has gotten from various medical journals, this damage disrupts the ability of parts of the nervous system to transmit signals resulting in a range of signs and symptoms, including physical, mental, and sometimes psychiatric problems. These include double vision, blindness in one eye, muscle weakness, and trouble with sensation or coordination. Another quote that Mr. Blecker has taken to prove his point, in most patients, reversible episodes of neurological dysfunction lasting several days or weeks characterize the initial stages of the disease, that is, clinically isolated syndrome and relapsing and remitting multiple sclerosis. Over time, irreversible clinical and cognitive deficits develop. In the meantime, Jason Dwaron continued his personal MS journey, going through rehabilitation and further treatment. Here's how Leah Dwaron describes it.
So it was like probably after about 3 treatments when the MS clinic confirmed that this is the best time now to start rehab through occupational therapy and physiotherapy. And so he started that probably in March of 2022.
And I went to physiotherapy for about 8 months before it was over. It was done. They said, this is basically completed. We've taken you where we can take you at this time. So we're going to send you, go to your gym or go to your, train at home too. But I prefer to go to the gym because they have some heavier weights I can handle with my upper body. My lower body can't handle it as much, but upper body I can handle it. So I wanted to go to the gym really badly, and she got me a 1 month. It was going to get me a 1 month gym pass.
Yeah, so we were having conversations about going to the gym and the importance that was going to be like highly important in the plan for medical treatment. And before he was discharged from physio, you were going to these classes in physio where they were teaching you like the step-by-step exercise plan to follow, so that make sure he had that mastered and he was knowledgeable about the plan.
Right.
So I thought, wow, like what a great anniversary gift. I'm going to help him heal. So I'm going to go to the gym because we had a pass there a year before but couldn't use it. And 11 months had passed, and I thought I'm going to get him a gift certificate for the gym. So now he can go and he can it'll be like happy anniversary, like can't wait to see you feel better kind of thing.
That's what it was, anniversary.
Right? Yeah. So I went in one day all excited about my idea to get him an anniversary gift. And I talked to the person working at the desk and she said, yep, you can have any amount of gift card that you want. So I said, how much is a monthly pass? And she told me, and I said, I'll put it for that. And she said, we have to put it in somebody's name. So what's the person's name? And I said, the person's name is Jason Dwaron. And she typed the name into the system and she showed me the screen that said Jason Dwaron is banned from the gym. Yeah. And I said, why is he banned from the gym? And she said, I don't know. Here's a phone number you can call, email address you can email the question to. So I did. So I was like, I just went in to buy my husband a gift card for your gym and was told he was banned. What the heck is that?
So then I got a note from my doctor saying that I was allowed to go to the gym under all circumstances that I, within the reason of what I can do.
According to Blecker, he wanted to speak to the same doctor who stated that Jason Dwaron is not able and will not be onward to attend the gym, what kind of exercises and equipment Jason would be able to do. It was already a surprise when Jason and his wife dropped off a wrinkled copy from a letter by the same doctor that said that Jason is physically fit to return to the gym after stating that he is disabled onward by this irreversible disease the previous December.
Jason needed a letter from the doctor. The doctor was like, that's fine. Wrote him a letter like every doctor does that says, this person is medically cleared to attend a gym for exercise.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in the middle.
So we sent that by email, and the response back was that we want a letter from your doctor stating that if anything happens to Jason at the gym, then he'll be covered under the doctor's insurance.
Which is ridiculous, and not
that.
gonna. No doctor is gonna do that.
Right?
It doesn't even make sense.
So I asked him to clarify that again because I was sure. So I wrote back, so medically clear is what you want, and he wrote back, no, that the doctor will cover him under his insurance. And I wrote back, well, what professional is going to say yes to that?
I'm a nurse, and all a doctor will write in a doctor's note is that this person is cleared to go to the gym. They're not going to even say why. They're not going to the gym before. They're not going to say talk about MS. I don't know how. Somehow it ended up being talked about that I had MS.
In the beginning, because we were trying to get the gym pass paused. So
but we honestly, the doctors, they won't even say that in the note. It won't even say that in the note. They keep that as confidential.
Further complicating matters in this case was gym owner Jens Blecker's family history with multiple sclerosis, particularly in the case of his own mother. Here's Leah Dwaron reading the message that he sent to her, specifically outlining this case.
When I was 5 years old, my mom was diagnosed with MS. At that point, I didn't understand what that really means, even if my mom tried to explain it. Unfortunately, it didn't take long to make clear what the disease is all about. My siblings and me were watching my mother fall apart or just lose control over her body. She got cortisone as medication and her body blew up. When we were still little kids, we were sent to a child care home for 6 months. When my mom felt better, she took us back home. Anyway, my older sister at that time, about 12 years old, took over the burden of the household and cooking. Mom disappeared step by step and lost control over her body and muscles. At the beginning, she couldn't hold a needle. Later, not even a quarter. I grew up with the knowledge that my mom could pass away any night or any day. So if anyone wants to tell me that I don't know about MS is about, please let me finish this shortcut. My mom tried her best, but there is no back step in the disease. It's an ongoing process that can be slowed down by medications but not returned. The process where my siblings and me went through has a lot more deep holes, and I'd like to keep that private. My mom died at 66 with MS, and it still makes me cry when I think about it. In the gym, there is a big risk of serious injuries. When you lose control over your muscles, if you are weightlifting, it could even kill you. I don't want any of the employees in that situation. I don't want to be responsible for that. And the family of Jason probably also doesn't want to see him hurt either. As I said, I just don't know about MS because of Wikipedia. My life was formed by it. So I would say that I know more about it than the Dwarons. If you lose control of your muscles, it is gone. Sometimes you get a hard push and it's getting a little better and after a break, but there is just one way. The disease is incurable and irreversible. At the status quo right now, you can slow it down but not reverse. The doctor wrote in his letter on December 1st, 2021, that Jason David Neil Dwaron has been or will be unable to attend Body and Soul Gym for medical reasons from December 1st, 2021 onward. End of quote. Being my experience of the disease, this is a final statement. And my mom has been in several groups and met a lot of people with MS, so I don't just talk about my mom. It would be disgusting to tell you about the circumstances, how a bunch of them died, so I'll just keep that for me. Anyway, I'm going to try to keep this letter short. I will send a letter to the doctor, and he must testify that his former diagnosis is now wrong and that Jason would be allowed to attend the gym. If I get the proper answers, there is no reason to stop Jason from getting a membership. I hope that you can get a better understanding of the disease, because I know that I know more than you. Thanks. All the best.
Every person is different, is what he's not realizing, this Jens person. He's not realizing every person is different. So maybe in his mom's case, it sounded horrible, and I feel bad for him for that. But my case is different. It's a different type of MS.
I do feel bad for him and his family, because that's awful that he had to go through that as a child. However, he's not a medical doctor, and he is not informed on the new medical treatments. People also in these groups who have progressive MS would not know about the treatment plan for Jason's MS, because we don't know anything about progressive MS. Yeah. So they wouldn't know that. I said, your story is sad, and I'm sorry that it happened to you. However, I suggest you look a little closer at your membership as we know that there are folks attending with MS, and there are quite a few, because exercise is the known treatment.
There's still no cure, but there is treatments for MS that are wonderful treatments that I'm taking right now, excellent treatment.
I wheeled Jason into his first treatment appointment, and Jason walked out. And the next day he had movement back in his hands, his legs felt better, and he ran across the living room. And we called the MS clinic because I said, really, is this real? Or is this like placebo effect or something? And they said, no, this is real. This is the treatment, but you still need to take it easy until we can get a couple of treatments in before you can start physio. So that's why I wrote to him that the treatment is not the same as it was 20 years ago. Even the doctors told us the treatment is not the same as it was 5 years ago.
Frustrated with Blecker's response, the Dwarons brought their case to Port Hawkesbury Mayor Brenda Chisholm-Beaton and to the town's official facilities manager, Gordy Snook. Telile Community Television reached out to both of them in the preparation phase for this story. Snook politely declined comment. Mayor Chisholm-Beaton told us in an email that the town is consulting with its municipal solicitor and that if there are any official statements coming out of these consultations, there can definitely be follow-up with Telile. However, the Dwarons feel that their case was heard by both the mayor and the facilities manager.
When we first found out that Jason was banned from the gym, Jason contacted Brenda contacted Gordy, and Gordy really advocated hard and felt bad for Jason that he needed to exercise and couldn't, and was able to give Jason a 1-year membership to the pool and to the walking track, and he made sure there was a chair at the walking track for Jason to sit on.
The walking track, anybody can go to the walking track, by the way.
Right. But there was at one point there was a rule where you couldn't sit, during all the COVID.
During
things,
COVID, there
right?
was, yeah.
Yeah, but they made sure Jason had a place to sit, and he really
That
felt
was even
bad.
before the MS. I had a car accident before
Right,
that.
that's when it was
That's when it
kind of
started.
starting. We didn't really know what was going on.
Gordy did talk to him, but he didn't know if he was what he was gonna be able to do. But really, my question is, should a guy like this own a gym in Port Hawkesbury and be discriminating against people with MS when his mom had MS?
In the meantime, correspondence continued between the Dwarons and Jens Blecker. In his official statement to Telile 24/7 regarding this case, Blecker insisted that the Dwarons' attitude was starting to wear on him. To me, at that time, it was cynical at its most when a couple that just got the diagnosis told me that I don't know anything about this irreversible disease. The statement goes on to say, I faced more than just one insolence, but I want to keep the statement as short as possible, so I'll stick with the important hard facts. They are liability and responsibility for the members, Jason himself, and also for the equipment. The statement goes on to say, all of us know about insurances and how they like to pay in case of claim. After a few discussions with Jason, and especially his wife, to me it was entirely clear that in case of an injury or worse, I would face a serious court claim. And with a doctor's letter that states unable to attend the Body and Soul Gym for medical reasons from December 1st, 2021 onward, I would be sentenced with no doubt. The insurance would decline coverage because of the letter and the fact that MS is going through irreversible stages and disables the nervous system step by step ongoing. According to Mr. Blecker, he then told Jason and Leah Dwaron that he is not willing to take this risk, and because of the special circumstances regarding this disease, it is a high risk. He continues, quote, just think about bench pressing and losing control over your muscles as one example. If they provide me with proof of liability from someone else, I don't have a problem to get him back in under the conditions that I said. An important part would be to limit him to equipment where he couldn't hurt any other members. Also here, the story is way longer, but I limit it to the hard facts.
Honestly, I'm thinking this is ridiculous because he's comparing me to his mom, who died maybe 20, 25 years ago. And I'm sorry for him for that, but this is a different case. And I'm walking, I'm talking, and I'm driving to physio, I'm driving to the gym when I was allowed. Now I'm banned from that gym, so I can't go to that one. But I go swimming, and I may have to go to another gym.
He's contacting me about Jason. I'm not Jason's substitute decision maker. Jason can make his own decisions. I'm not Jason's caregiver. I'm his wife. people don't come to me and ask me, can Jason have a treatment? I'm not in charge of any of that. Jason can make his own decisions. And so I told him all that I just said to you in the email. And I asked him to stop emailing me because it just makes me angry that there's someone like running a business in our town, which we've lived in for 12 years, discriminating about and pretending to be a doctor. And I said, I can't handle these emails anymore.
At the time, Jason's wife went very rude, according to Mr. Blecker, started to threaten me, and I decided to step out. I am liable and responsible for the business, and the goodwill was trampled. It is hard to understand why someone is putting other members, the equipment, and the business of someone else on a high risk just to get what they want. To me, that is selfish and irresponsible to others. Finally, in December, after continued requests from Jason Dwaron, Jens Blecker offered a 2-week trial period at Body and Soul. However, this would come with some restrictions.
He had wrote an email to Jason before Christmas and said, I'm considering things and now I'm going to get back to you.
According to Mr. Blecker's next part of the statement, well, some time went by and I got a few emails from Jason that he would like to get back into the gym to support his rehab. I was on vacation at that time, but I told him that I would get back to him when I returned. So I did. I told him that I would consider to support him under special circumstances. First of all, I wanted him and his wife to sign a waiver that also stated, I am aware that I can't file a claim against Body and Soul or Jens Blecker, the town of Port Hawkesbury, or any related persons if I get hurt caused by exercising at the gym. I guarantee that I won't use any equipment that could hurt me, hurt others, or be damaged because of lack of control over muscle functions, such as free weights, etc. During the free trial period of 14 days, I will just use the cardio equipment to support my rehab.
So it gave me a 2-week pass, but to be honest, it wasn't a real thing. Because I went once, and I talked to him some more, and what would allow me to do is cardio machines when I went there. And I was like, I sent them Facebooks and emails, and I was like, I've done other exercises at physio, numerous exercises where I'm sitting down, doing pulleys, doing biceps, triceps, legs, leg extension, leg curls. I'm doing all kinds of exercises that are not cardio. So, you know, it's fine for the 2-week pass you give me, but after that, I would like to be able to do other exercises as well.
After this period, it will be discussed to get Jason a membership that limits him to the equipment that he is able to operate safely to himself, others, and the equipment itself. I am aware that any misconduct of the rules above or the rules of the gym will lead to an immediate cancellation of my membership.
Jason had to sign the waiver and I had to sign a waiver, and I was again like, why? I don't want to go to this gym. I do my own stuff in the basement. Anyway, so Jason went and I said to Jason, but if you want me to, like, I will, so you can go work out. So Jason went and signed it, and I went in and signed it when I got off work one day, and I read the thing, and I called Jason and I said, are you sure you want me to sign this? Like, I'm only doing this for you. This is ridiculous.
So that is the waiver that Jens Blecker asked Leah and Jason Dwaron to sign. According to the next part of his statement, this was also goodwill and was trampled after the first day in the gym as well.
I did cardio on a bike for about 15-20 minutes, and it was fun. That day was fine. The worker was fine. They were very nice. But the problem I had was in Facebook messages and emails from this owner, Jens. He was discriminating against me. I felt. Saying stuff like, due to your disability and all this, he was saying like that I was gonna, I was at risk. I'm not at risk any more than anyone else. I did physio for 8 months with 0 injuries, and so it doesn't make sense what he said.
So he told Jason that night, because Jason asked, I want to know when I can start weights, and the guy said, it's going to be cardio, and he said, I'm doing this to help you. I'm doing this to make you feel better. And Jason had written, so my physiotherapist and doctor know what I can do. And he said, well, then go back there. Don't come back here. You can have your 2-week pass to ride your bike. After that, find somewhere else to go.
Find another gym, he said after that. First he said that, and then I told him he was discriminating against me, and then he said, you're banned.
I was told that he wants to use the equipment and things have to change when he pays for the membership. Also, that the waiver is not worth the paper it is written on, and they have already talked to a lawyer. Telile Community Television has confirmed that the Dwarons have sought legal counsel. They have not retained legal counsel as of March the 8th, 2023.
He said, if you come in my gym, I'm going to tell the workers to call 911, which makes no sense at all. I'm not going to go near his gym, and I'm not going to touch anybody. And I walk with a cane, and I do what I can just to get by right now. I'm not trying to hurt anybody, so this makes no sense.
According to the last portion of Jens Blecker's statement, at this point there is nothing else to say but that's it. He told me that he will go public and he will call it discrimination. Well, this is nonsense, or would you call it discrimination if a restaurant declined to serve you peanuts after you provided a doctor's letter that states a peanut allergy? That's the sum total of the statement provided to Telile Community Television by Jens Blecker, the owner and operator of Body and Soul here at the Port Hawkesbury Civic Centre. As you might have guessed by now, the Dwarons aren't buying Blecker's explanation.
Yeah. These waivers, we are CanFit professionals, and I teach Taekwondo, and we know waivers mean nothing in court. Like, honestly, so I signed it just to make him happy.
Not because he wanted any plans to sue anybody. But
no plans to sue anybody. But I'm just going to make him happy so I can go to the gym. I want to go to the gym.
I was worried about Jason's safety in the gym. And I asked, not because he's going to fall, but I was worried about how is he going to get treated when he walks into the gym. So for people who don't know, so MS hates stress. So it doesn't do well under stress, and you can go into an episode if you have a lot of stress. An episode means like one of your symptoms will come back. And so we know what Jason's symptoms are, and they're never going to change. So he's got sore legs, sore back, his hand movement sometimes doesn't work the way he wants it to work, and sometimes he might lose his speech. Those are his symptoms, are always going to be his symptoms, and stress can bring them on. So I was worried that he was going to go to the gym, and people were going to be either saying mean things to him or not letting him do what he wants, and he was going to get stressed, and then he'd be okay there, and he would make it home like he always does, and once he relaxed, the new symptom would come on. And a coworker of mine said to me, she was like, think of stress affects MS, but yet they're stressing him out about the place he's going in for treatment at the gym.
I went to the Y for years before it was Yen's gym. It was the YMCA, and I went for years at that time, probably around 2010. From 2000 to 2010, I went there years and years, and I loved that gym. And I wanted to go back to that gym because it has everything that I need, that I know I need to help for my MS. I can do stuff at home, but I have small weights, but I can't do the same stuff that I can do at a gym. And I want to go back to that gym. And I don't want him to stop me based on banning me for life. That's ridiculous, I think. And I want to talk to him in person, really, because he never even talked to me face to face. He talked to me on Facebook and on Hotmail. That was it. I want to talk to Jens in person and tell him, Jens, we do not have anything against you. We other than we know you're discriminating. That is a problem, for sure. But you just have to give me a chance. I want to go back to the gym.
To be honest, I'm seriously disgusted, and it makes me sick to think about somebody, not even in this town, anyone who's actually okay with saying you're banned from my gym because you have MS. He's totally, I can't believe it. It shocks me.
When Telile 24/7 spoke to Jens Blecker in the run-up to this story, we asked him if he knew of any other gym patrons that had multiple sclerosis. Blecker told us at that time that he had no records of any such instances among his gym patrons, but Leah and Jason Dwaron aren't convinced.
And what happens when he finds out who the people are who are in his gym who have MS? That are going there every day because they know I have to exercise. I've met people with MS on this journey that I've known for years that I've had no idea had MS. because they're following their treatment plan, which is you get the treatment plan and then you have to follow your treatment plan. If you don't exercise with MS doesn't like not exercising. MS doesn't like too much exercise. There's a fine line that a physiotherapist has to determine what that line is so you can get better. And that's been determined. But now Jason can't get better.
And that's where we leave this story. Town council and town staff in Port Hawkesbury are aware of the Dwaron situation, and some members of town staff have spoken to Jens Blecker about the situation. Jens Blecker has had his say, both with town council and staff, the Dwarons themselves, and for us here at Telile 24/7. So we leave it up to you, our viewers, to determine whether this is a case of insolence, as Jens Blecker has called it, or discrimination, as Leah and Jason Dwaron have called it. Or possibly neither, simply a problem in search of a solution. At the Port Hawkesbury Civic Centre for Telile 24/7, I'm Adam Cook. And now, as promised, here's the second part of our interview with Mike Kelloway, the Liberal Member of Parliament for Cape Breton-Canso. He's going to talk a little bit about the healthcare deal that was recently struck between the federal and provincial governments, but we begin with a conversation about how Mike Kelloway's riding of Cape Breton-Canso might look very, very different when it comes to the next federal election. Some big changes coming down the pipe. It's looking an awful lot, if these particular boundary recommendations go through, that most of Sydney, Victoria would be reduced in geographic size to Sydney and Glace Bay, while the Cape Breton-Canso riding would take on the bulk of the remainder of Cape Breton Island and extend out to the town and county of Antigonish, the western half of the county. It would be renamed Cape Breton-Antigonish. This is the first time that we've had to chat with you about this. Your thoughts on these proposed changes and whether you feel they might actually go through.
So let's go back in time. There was a series of, I guess, initial recommendations made by the Commission that had Cape Breton-Canso as it is now, but with the addition of the town of Antigonish. I didn't say anything about that because, quite frankly, having served on the Provincial Electoral Boundaries Commission about 4 years ago, I know that this is a bit of a process. But I was fine, and I still am fine with the riding of Cape Breton-Canso, including the town of Antigonish. I love my riding. I love the people in this riding. I love the rural-urban mix. And as I mentioned to you in the opening segment here, it's such a diverse riding, made up of so many just quality grade A people. So that came out. And then there was a period of time where individuals could make their case in written format to the Commission in terms of ideas, suggestions, recommendations on the actual the map of a particular modification to the riding or a complete change or as is. And then one Thursday morning, we got the final report, and the final report focused on very much what you said. The Commission looks like what they've done is they have an urban riding in Cape Breton, then they have a rural, and the other riding, Guysborough, Antigonish, Cape Breton, is predominantly rural. So really, substantial changes to the map. But having served on the Commission, as I mentioned, provincially, I know you get a lot of contributions, both in person, but more so in written format. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to prejudge anything that the Commission did or will do, but I will say this, that we had a committee where individuals could, MPs in particular, could bring forth concerns and whatnot. I know some did. And I know people have written to me, and I've passed this on to the committee in terms of concerns, agreements, and things of that nature. At the end of the day, my mindset is this. I serve the people of Cape Breton-Canso. I will continue to serve people of Cape Breton-Canso, and if these changes take place, then I will continue to serve in one form or another. In terms of elections, I'm always ready. I'm always ready with a great group of volunteers, committed people from Canso to Arishat to Shettycamp to Paq'tnkek to Port Hawkesbury to Glace Bay, and all points in between. So we'll have to wait and see. Now, what can happen? The committee will submit recommendations to the commission. The commission can accept some of those changes, all of those changes, none of those changes. So now it's a bit of a waiting game. It's a waiting game to see what comes from the PROC committee, procedural committee, in terms of recommendations that go to the commission. And the commission then weighs that. Now, provincially, I can tell you, like what we did as a commission is that we weighed a lot of different changes between version 1 and version 2. In some cases, in some ridings, nothing changed. In some cases, quite a bit changed. So we're going to have to wait and see on what comes from it. What I tell people is everyone breathe, let the process play out. If you have concern, you submit it to the appropriate committee federally, and then we'll see where we are with it. And I believe that is sometime in 2023. So I've heard a couple of dates. I've heard May. I've heard September. But I know it's a source of anxiety for many because I have received the calls, and I have to say that I've received many calls from places like Shreddy Camp and in Richmond County saying, "Are we going to lose you?" And there's a lot of concern there. There's also a lot of concern from people that are on the side of keeping the status quo, that you make a bigger riding bigger, and that presents problems as well. Then you have people that are agnostic to it, and then you have people that support it. So we'll wait and see. But I'll continue to have my head down, working hard, living in my car, meeting with people, getting funding for organizations, promoting healthcare, promoting the need for more funding in healthcare. And we'll talk about that in a bit. Focusing on legislation like for disabilities, focusing on economic development, focusing on green hydrogen. I'll continue to focus on that and let this play out until we have more concrete, concrete processes in terms of what the next steps are from what PROC submitted to the commission and what the commission is reviewing or not reviewing.
Now, just one more question on this before we leave this topic. Mike, your caucus colleague and your Cape Breton caucus colleague, Jaime Batiste from Sydney, Victoria, had expressed some concern when the new boundary proposals came out that if they went through, he stood to lose Eskasoni First Nation from his riding. And I just wonder, has there been any discussion between the two of you on that particular possibility, and even on where each of you would run should you both decide to run again? I know you don't want to necessarily speak for Jaime Batiste at this point, but has any conversation like that been happening, or have you given some thought to that issue?
No, I respect Jaime's prerogative in terms of wanting to keep Sydney, Victoria. In the new riding, Eskasoni would fall in Cape Breton, Guysborough, Antigonish. Eskasoni would join 4 other First Nations communities in those ridings. I don't want to prejudge why, Jaime's rationale or Jaime's focus, but I respect all MPs' views on this. This is a tough process for people to go through, citizens and MPs. Jaime will have to certainly make decisions when the dust settles. But I respect Jaime and the work he's done and the work he will do for us in a strong Liberal party going forward. But no, I think my mindset on this is, someone told me a while ago, actually it was my father-in-law who's no longer with us, that patience and time are the greatest of warriors. I want to see how the process rolls out. Support my colleagues in their interventions, but I keep my powder dry on this because I want to see where this goes, and we'll see how it all comes out in the wash, as they say.
All right. Well, we'll see how things go. Hoping for a decision on that within the next couple of months and some action on that later this year. And we'll wind things down, Mike, by talking a bit about something you alluded to just a few seconds ago. A brand new 10-year health funding deal signed between the federal government and the provinces. Obviously, we have all heard about the difficulties that the healthcare system is experiencing here in Nova Scotia. Your thoughts on what was signed, the deal that was reached, and how it could help out here in this particular province?
Yeah, Adam, this is pretty monumental investment, pretty transformational investment from the federal government to the provinces and Canada and territories. And I could say in 2019 and in 2021, when I knocked on the doors, and people were very, very much in tune and educated to the fact that, yes, the provincial government delivers and develops and is in many ways, the gatekeeper of healthcare in Canada. But people also know that the federal government plays a fundamental role in terms of funding. And this has been never been more true than in the recent year, where we've seen a lot of stories, heartbreaking stories, of people struggling, people passing away, doctors leaving, nurses moving on to other places where there is a greater life-work balance, better pay, so forth and so on. So for me, the focus over the last two elections and now was working with others in government to really focus on making substantial investments to the provinces in healthcare. But with a caveat, Adam, and I can tell you that every call that I've made, and I've made quite a few phone calls over the past year to constituents, pretty much all the constituents have said the same thing. We need to ensure that if you're going to make a substantial investment federally to the provinces, that we have goals, we have objectives, and we have focused outcomes of where that money is going to go. That helps the provinces, that helps the federal government, but ultimately it helps people. Mm-hmm. And so that's what this agreement is. So we know that every Canadian deserves healthcare whenever and wherever they need it. We also know that there's different schools of thought out there right now in Canada in terms of private healthcare, public healthcare. And I'll say this on your show, that I am an absolute disciple when it comes to focusing on the public healthcare option. I really believe that you should get healthcare, high quality healthcare with your health card and not your credit card. And this agreement, I want to go back to something. This agreement really focuses on the healthcare heroes, those that are the backbone of the system, where we'll see money that's being infused into personal care workers, nurses, doctors, focusing on mental health care. This is pretty substantial. So it's about $198.6 billion over the next 10 years to address healthcare system gaps, support those that work within it, and ultimately ensure that everyone gets the healthcare that they need when they need it. That is substantial. This is a major investment that will be included in the budget, Adam. So again, I think it's going to come in very, very soon. It's going to be infused. It's an agreement that all the provincial governments have agreed to. And what I like, what has happened, and I only speak to Nova Scotia, but Nova Scotia understands that we need to up our game in terms of having relevant data, that we can share the data with the federal side, that we know where the money is going, where it's being invested. So we need measurable outcomes, Adam. It's like anything else. If you don't know where the target is, how are you ever going to hit it? How are you ever going to measure it? And that's what's happened here with our provincial government and the federal government. Pretty big, pretty substantial, and transformational funding that will go to the provinces. Now, healthcare, again, is a responsibility of the provincial government.
Yes.
We've talked about that. They design and they deliver, as I mentioned. But this money is going to give them the tools to improve healthcare and make it accessible for all Canadians, including Cape Breton-Canso residents. So again, we now have quite an amount of investment that will be infused into Nova Scotia hospitals, Nova Scotia doctors, Nova Scotia nurses, emergency nurses, personal care workers, a large chunk of that going to focusing on mental health, pediatric hospitals, emergency rooms, those long wait times for surgeries. Well, the government is giving the money. Federal government is giving it to the province. Now the province needs to deliver and develop those processes that are going to enable people to get the health care they need it when they want it. And let me just say one last thing on healthcare. So we have a clear delineation approaching here. choice. So we have those that know that we can make public health care better, that with the right investment and the right collaboration and cooperation with the provinces, that they can deliver the goods in terms of healthcare. But now we have an emerging narrative in our country that it's focusing on private healthcare and infusing private healthcare, and maybe private healthcare surpassing public healthcare. I don't think that's a road that people in Cape Breton-Canso want to go down. I think people in Cape Breton-Canso want to strengthen public health, not tear it down. So I would be, and I'm not being political here because I'm not mentioning names, but I think people in Cape Breton-Canso need to ask the question whether you're a senior, whether you're a mom and dad, whether you're a young person, whether you're Acadian, whether you're Mi'kmaq, whether you're from Port Hawkesbury, Port Hastings, Port Moran. What kind of healthcare do we want? Do we want an American-style healthcare? That's what some people are proposing. And I can tell you straight up to all the listeners, I'll fight with every fiber of my being against that, but I'll also fight for investments like we see here today in bettering public health care.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground in a short time, Mike, and I thought we would with this conversation. Did you want to add anything else about all of this just before we wrap up?
Well, I want to say that I always appreciate my time with you, Adam, and I always appreciate Telile. We need more Teliles in Canada that tells the stories in a fact-based way. I would say a couple of things. Make sure that you get your information from sources like Telile that are from journalists that have training, that are unbiased. That's going to be really important going forward, and especially in this digital age. I also want to say a couple of things about Richmond County. You know, this past year, I've made investments to Kingston Memorial, Bluesdale Lions Club, the Fens of Notre Dame, Lennox Passage Yacht Club, the St. Peter's Area Lions Club, and River Bourgeois Community Center. We had substantial projects that were funded, but we had projects through the riding that we got funding. The groups that I just mentioned. I want to say thank you to their leadership. There is no funding available if we do not have the leadership on the ground, and that is volunteers. And I will stack volunteers in Richmond and Inverness County, Guysborough County, Antigonish County, and the CBRM with any in Canada, because I'm telling you, we're lighting it up with investments to community groups to the point where I think other MPs are jealous of me. And I say, don't be jealous of me. Just look to the people of Cape Breton-Canso, because they're putting forward really Herculean efforts in terms of putting strong proposals to help people.
We are definitely grateful for and proud of our volunteers here in Richmond County and around the riding. And we're thankful for you, Mike Kelloway. You were actually one of my guests on the very first episode of Telile 24/7 3 years ago this month.
Hard to believe.
And it's great to have you back, not only from that anniversary and timeline perspective, but to have you as our member of parliament sharing your thoughts on all these issues. Mike Kelloway, thank you for joining me once again on Telile 24/7.
Thanks, Adam.
Mike Kelloway is the member of parliament for Cape Breton-Canso, and we've reached him via Zoom at his office in Sydney River. And there you have it. That wraps up this week's edition of Telile 24/7. I'd like to thank my interview guests this week, Mike Kelloway, Leah and Jason Dweron, and via prepared statement for Telile 24/7, Jens Blecker. If you have any thoughts about what you've seen over the past hour, or suggestions for a future edition of Telile 24/7, feel free to reach out to me directly or to Telile Community Television in Arishat. And don't forget to follow Telile on social media. For now, I'm Adam Cook. Thank you once again for joining me on this week's edition of Telile 24/7. I look forward to seeing you again next week with a brand new show. Bye for now.